Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swaggle. It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit since I've been able to fire up the camera and hang out on stream here tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I hope you guys are having a great Friday evening going into the weekend. Just decided to kind of pull up the camera. Got a lot of stuff to talk about, even though I'm flying a little bit by the seat of my pants here, shooting a little bit from the hip. There's some good topics I want to dig in and kind of just have a good show, hang out with you guys, maybe do some Q&A. I mean, we have a lot of things that we can discuss or bullet points to hit, but at the same time, we can also just kind of do viewer conversations. And I might have some people hop on the channel or hop on the stream a little bit later. You never really know. You might get some special guests. Now, let me just make sure that I'm doing this correctly, that, the sound looks good, that everything looks good, that everything is working perfectly. Rick here, where's the 1080 high definition? Listen, Rick. Okay, this is how we roll on this channel. Okay, we're going with the whole like guy in his comic book room aesthetic. All right, if as soon as I bring in fancy cameras and fancy lighting and doing that whole thing, I feel like it won't be the same. Won't be the same. So it is what it is. Thank God it's Friday, man. Yeah. Jay the Collector. Thank God it's Friday. All right. Well, I already started doing it, but let me kind of hop into the chat and greet some of the people that are jumping in. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight. We got AOA. I saw a newbie over there, but we got AOA with the gold medal. Now we don't do gold, silver, and bronze on this channel because I don't stream enough to actually make it a thing where it would make sense to have this recurring medal thing. But if I were to do gold medals, AOA, you would have the gold tonight. Live Swaggle, TNA, Q&A. Yes, TNA is on my other stream, the OF stream, if you guys know what I mean. So go over there for the TNA action. We got Metal Bum here. Can't wait. Yeah, Metal Bum. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming by. JT Key Comic, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Thanks for hopping in the chat. Brandon Metro here. Dear Darkhawk, are we through the mantle yet? Ha ha ha, Swaggle Haas. Darkhawk, we're on our way. We're on our way to the moon. We're not quite there yet. We took a little detour these last few months, but we'll definitely get there. We will get there for sure. Working Mathematician, you make the comic community a better place with your can-do attitude and no-nonsense approach. Well, hey, thank you, Working Mathematician. I appreciate that. I try to do what I can, just kind of give my opinion and hopefully provide value to you guys with the channel. So it's good to hear that you think I'm doing a good job. Rick here. In 30 years from now, maybe Miles will be ahead of Peter, but not now. Well, we got to talk about this. And I think it's really interesting to have this conversation about the Peter Miles thing. And I realize that, I don't know if you guys feel it. I feel like there is this sort of brewing antagonist, fandom, or there's like sides, like you got to be on Team Miles or Team Peter. And I do think that there are some things, I'm not going to go into like heavy spoilers with the film, but I actually do think that the filmmakers wrote themselves a little bit into a corner with what they did in the film. And I'm actually a little bit worried about how they're going to pull it off without sort of making it a little antagonistic between both sides of it. I actually think there's kind of a problem. Actually, the movie was cool. I like the first one more, but I do think there were some things about the film thematically that I'm like, I don't know about this. Obviously we have to see where they land the plane in the next part, but they might have put themselves in a tough corner with that one. And I'll be more specific later on in the show. We start to talk about that stuff. Newbie Comics, what's going on, man? Good to see you, man. Flexopotamus, good to see you. Nowhere Brown, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Thank you guys so much for hopping in the chat. Now, before we really get it going, let me get some housekeeping out of the way. Let me do a few plugs, if you guys don't mind me doing a few plugs. Of course, I got to give a shout out to the sponsor of this channel, one of the sponsors of this channel, Torpedo Comics. You guys know Torpedo Comics. I've talked about them many times in other videos. Great comic book store. And I have a promo code in my description. If you guys want to hop over to their store, see what kind of books, are they're being discounted, pop in Swagglehos for the promo code and you get 10% off. So definitely go check them out. Later on this year, they're going to be doing their own con, Torpedo Con. They got Jim Lee going there. I am definitely going to be there. I'm super, super excited about that. And the other little kind of promo that I got to say is I got to promo myself a little bit. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel or hit that like button, I would definitely appreciate it. And I don't want to get too into this, but I do think that I can just say I got my comic book back, guys. I got my comic book back from the printer. And boy, oh boy, does it look so good. It looks so good. I am so, so excited. I got all of these beautiful covers. I am working on fulfilling the Kickstarter. I will start next week, starting to fulfill the Kickstarter and getting all the orders out. And I'm super, super excited about this. I think I'm going to be doing a pop-up event at San Diego Comic-Con for the comic book. And I will be having my... I will be letting everyone know when it is available online. Again, put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. Now I'm working on issues 2 and 3 already. So I'm super excited about that. And hopefully, if you guys got a chance to support the Kickstarter, hopefully you guys are going to be excited to read it. And if you didn't get to support the Kickstarter, hopefully when the time comes, when the book is available online, you'll give it a chance. You'll definitely check it out. So I would really, really appreciate it if you guys did that. And the last little thing that I will say in relation to my Kickstarter comic book, which this was the Kickstarter page that is now completed. As you guys know, I've mentioned a few times on the channel before that, I work in entertainment. I'm a writer. And actually through this project, I'm going to be writing another comic. And this one is actually a hired work. I'm going to be working on a series called Genesis with Daniel Wu and Sean Chen. This company called 24/7 Comics. Now, if you guys happen to know Daniel Wu, famous actor, great actor, we kind of released this promo video. He is going to be kind of the ambassador to this comic book, playing the main character. Sean Chen, who's an amazing artist who actually did one of my covers for my comic book. This one right here, which I thought turned out great. Let me just show you guys one more time. This one right here, Sean Chen. He actually had a hand in working on Iron Man back in the day. He worked on Nova, Wolverine, all this stuff. He's a legendary Marvel artist. But this is the work that he started. He did the first couple issues, and the Kickstarter is going to be going live for that soon. And then I'm going to be taking over the writing duties for the remaining issues. So definitely, I put a link in the description. Go check this out. Go follow the pre-launch page. And I think that it'll be something you guys should keep your eyes on. If you guys are into like the Kickstarter indie comic space, go follow their pre-launch page. It's in the description. I'll be talking about it more on the channel very, very soon. But I am excited about that. So that is kind of my rounding up the plugging segment of the stream. Let me check back into the chat, and then before we kind of get into our main sort of topics here. Let me just see who else is here. Karihito, I was expecting newsprint definition. We are ready for your wisdom. All right, just catching up with the chat. Here, Austin B saying, "Yo, Swag, your name in neon in the only mood lighting we need." Yeah, that's true, right? This is you should check out some of these settings. Look at this. Actually, do I want to do this? Can I do this? Hey. Do the thing. Oh, look at that. That's when things get really crazy over here in the on the other live stream account, if you know what I mean. Okay, so we get a little blinking light there. Can we just go back to regular mode? Demonstration. We didn't rehearse this, guys. We didn't rehearse this. All right, turn down the brightness. Let's get it right. There we go. All right, we're back to normal. Nando, what's going on, man? What's going on, Nando? Good to see you. Thanks for hopping in the chat. Is Darkhawk your OF name? Unfortunately, Darkhawk was taken. Go figure. Go figure. You know, I guess there's a lot of other Darkhawk fans out there. Yeah, this is a burning question, Sydney, that we need to know. How many copies of Spider-Boy does Newbie have? We need to know about this. We definitely need to get Newbie to answer, because he is as they say in this hobby, a dirty flipper looking to just pump and dump those Spider-Boy books all over the market. But with that being said, I think it's a good transition to talk about Spider stuff, to talk about, you know, the Spider universe, to talk about across the Spider-Verse. And one of the, you know, topics of conversation that I have, at least in the description, you know, with the Q&A and stuff, and that is obviously across the Spider-Verse. This is now its second, I think, full weekend. We're going into the second full weekend at the box office. Obviously doing tremendous, highly reviewed. I don't know if you guys saw the film, if you guys had a chance to see it, or what you guys thought of it. I don't know a single person who didn't like it. Actually, I'd love to know if there's anyone in the chat who didn't like the movie. Let me know, and let me know some of your reasons. Now, I already said in the preamble that I think that this film was not as good as the first one. I think that there's a few reasons for that. One, I don't think it stands on its own like the first one did. I think the first one, what makes the first one so amazing is that, like, as a complete film, like top to bottom, it's just so tight, so tight. This one, obviously, amazing animation, top notch. The acting is great. The performances, the characters, all that stuff is great. But I did feel like there were some things thematically and some like story beats that they chose to do from like a writing perspective that I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think paints them into a corner from a storytelling standpoint. And it kind of serves into this whole like Peter Parker versus Miles. Like, it's very clear that Miles Morales is the beloved Spider-Verse character of the filmmakers. And I kind of feel like they pulled the rug out from a lot of the other Spider characters based on how they kind of created the story. And now where it's going, I kind of feel like, as far as like where the payoff is going to be and how they're going to land the plane in the next film, I mean, are they going to just say that, I'm talking around it. If you guys know and you saw the movie, you know, like, are they basically saying what Miles is going to choose to do is the right thing, and that in theory, all the other Spider-Mans did not do the thing or did not fight for the thing? I think that that's enough for me to say, so you guys have context without me spoiling it. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. But we got to talk about kind of what's going on in the market as it relates to that. But here at the Key Collector Trending 20 list, I mean, if you just roll through the Trending 20, I mean, what do you see here? How many of these 20 are Spider-Verse related? Insane market activity for Spider-Verse. I mean, look at this. Basically, I think 17 of 20, maybe 16 of 20 are all related to Spider-Verse characters, which is pretty impressive. Again, I've had different conversations on the channel about this idea of like the pendulum is swinging. That was like the video I did earlier this week, where we feel like the pendulum is starting to swing, where now after the movie, that's when the comic book collectors, the comic book buyers are showing interest in the comics out there. Like, that's when the books are starting to move in the market, which is a good sign. I mean, that's kind of how it should be, right? Like, you should have this pop cultural event that happens, a movie, an animation, even a storyline itself, like even a comic book storyline itself should happen. And then after that, that's when people should say, hey, you know, I really liked Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. Let me go pick up Spider-Man 2099 #1. That's what should happen. And we saw that both, you know, starting a little bit with Guardians of the Galaxy, and then certainly we're seeing it, I mean, case in point with this Trending 20 list this week, we're definitely seeing it with what we saw with the Spider-Verse books. And it's impressive because I think that, like, even now, these Spider-Verse books are even hotter than they were before the movie. Like, we all knew that Spider-Punk was going to be in the film. We all knew that Spider-Man India was going to be in the film. but it truly was like the portrayal of these characters was actually really, really well done. Like I'm not somebody who I'm not, you guys know, I'm not like super into modern books or anything like that. I mean, I like the occasional one, and I didn't know anything about Spider-Man India. But after the film, I was like, yo, Spider-Man India is dope. I like this guy. And maybe I'll get a Spider-Man India comic, you know? So that's something that's really interesting in this pendulum swinging. And so we're seeing it a lot in the market. And what I was getting at with that video is it does feel like eventually, like things do, like trends happen. Now, all of a sudden, if people start to get optimistic about comics selling in the market related to the movie, because that's really what it comes down to, right? Is like, if we're seeing comics sell once again related to a movie, then that gets the speculators excited once again. So now they start to think, okay, well, what is the next movie that is going to cause comics to sell? And that's where the speculation comes again. And that's where it's like, okay, now people start buying at the trailer once again. And then so everyone's going to be flipping at the trailer. And then before that, and then soon enough, it'll be everyone's buying and flipping even before the trailer. And then we kind of repeat this cycle, you know, again and again and again. So that's kind of where we're going with it, which is really, really interesting. Yeah. Thank you, Horvath. I thought it was funny too. Pendulum swinging, you know, a little bit of a spider swinging thingy thing. I actually just picked up a Spider-Man 2099 from my LCS. They did a cool sale on a bunch of raw copies for the movie. Yeah, that's dope. I mean, Spider-Man 2099, it's a cool book, you know, movie, no movie, Oscar Isaac portrayal, which, by the way, I thought he did a really great job portraying this character. And this is still a cool book. I mean, it's like 90s foil goodness. So it's always going to be a cool one. Now, is it going to take us to the moon? I don't necessarily know about that. I mean, I think there's so many copies out there, and it's always going to compete with ASM 365. Although this, to me, like if you're really in it for Spider-Man 2099, this to me seems like the cooler collector item to have, even more so than that of ASM 365, which I think is the cooler book to have just as a Spider-Man fan, Peter Parker Spider-Man fan. But if you like 2099 Spider-Man, then I think this is the book that you should probably get for your collection. Wait, Joshua says, Swag, I'm so tickled by the Alien show, but I strongly dislike the Hollywood trope. Aliens are bad. You are pushing. Grinds my gears. Having said that, I love you. Does Hollywood push aliens are bad trope? I mean, they kind of do. Yeah. Because we have like what do you call it? I feel like Independence Day is like the perfect example of like aliens blowing up monuments. I mean, I even made a joke about it in my video. But yeah, hopefully aliens are good. Hopefully aliens are good. But let's finish out with the Spider-Verse here. So we got to talk about this. Spider-Verse books all moving out there in the market, going bananas. And this is kind of where I think we can transition the conversation a little bit to Ultimate Fallout 4. Now, again, I already did a video kind of doing a market report on this. But there is some stuff that I think we can kind of look at that has since happened since that video, which, of course, we can talk about Ultimate Fallout 4 in the 9A grade. Now, the question is, how long does the uptick for this book sustain, right? Like we can see right there from the graph, just at the tail end, you're seeing us go back up. We get this little lip movement here. And before the movie or last weekend, we saw some pretty big sales here. 2354 was an auction. Very, very impressive to have an auction finish at 2354, like a record high, say within the last month or so at an auction. Then you have some buy it nows and stuff. And since then, you know, we saw another auction on Heritage just the other night at 1920. And then we see a fixed price go on eBay for 2000. So we're now kind of at that solid $2,000 range. We had been selling, I'd say, more around the 17,000, maybe flirting with 16,000. Am I saying 1,000? You guys know what I mean. We're at the $2,000 range. 1,900. We were at the $1,700 and $1,600 range, and then this little lift has kind of brought us back up. But I would still be a little bit suspect of this book being able to maintain that $2,000 floor value throughout the rest of the year. Like, you know, as I talked about, like the indexes that we've done and the market reporting, it's still my opinion that we could see macro pressures pushing books down, and that this is a little bit like of a momentary like hype, right? Everyone's so excited about Spider-Verse. Everyone's really excited about this book. Things are, going to be up for a little bit of time, but 3 months from now, 4 months from now, there's going to be a dip. There's going to be a lull. And again, maybe not in the fixed prices, but certainly at the auctions, which, the auctions eventually lead into the average of the 90-day and things like that, which like pushes prices down because people say like, hey, last sale on GPA was this. Would you take this as an offer? And then people do, because there's constantly people needing to sell their books. So something you have to kind of think about, something you got to look out for. But this book could be one for the future. Now, the other one to talk about is this Ultimate Follow 4, the Djurjevic variant, the 1 in 25. This one is really interesting. And there is a current Comic Connect auction that just finished just this week. And for that Comic Connect auction, we saw an Ultimate Fallout number 4 in a CGC 9.8 signed by Stan Lee. Now, I don't know how many Stan Lee signatures there are for this particular variant. We saw a couple that had the Brian Michael Bendis signature that actually hilariously sold for less than that of the regular copy. But this one at $43,000 is second highest price that book has ever sold. This is an auction that literally just finished today. So if we rewind the clock to earlier this year, we saw this book sell for $43,200. We saw it starting to taper off, $34,000, $33,000. I actually think that there were some Comic Link auctions which do not get recorded that finished at 31. So it had been trending down. And there was the Bendis signature one here in the 9.8 grade that sold for $32,000, which was less than the Blue Label counterpart. But here on the Comic Connect, we have this pretty massive $43,000 Stan Lee sale. Now, this could be a temporary lift because, we're talking about Stan Lee and maybe there's not that many Stan Lee signatures on this book. But again, this is one that I think is a little bit worrisome still, in my opinion. I think that this is an all-time book. I think that this book will forever be a massive grail for a lot of collectors, like say 10 years from now, 15 years from now, whatever. But as far as like trying to get the best price that you can, this one is tough because, if you look at that 9.8 graph, it wasn't that long ago, man. It really wasn't that long ago when this book was, a quarter of the price. So you have to wonder, like, how many people bought into this book for $3,000 just 3 years ago and have the opportunity to make $30K right now? Like, that's a tough one to pass up, especially if your entry point is that low, and there's 178 on the census. So this is always going to be a book that comes up for sale, I'd say at least once a month. Like, this is a comparable census number at 9.8 to that of, I think, Hulk 181, ASM 129, first Wolverine, first Punisher. I think that would be a good comparison value for a book like this. So that does say, or that can suggest that I do think that this book can eventually get to the values of Hulk 181, right? Because if we're thinking about, okay, here's a character that is, at least on the path to say be as popular as Wolverine. Maybe he is already as popular as Wolverine with the youngins. So, and they have similar census numbers. So it is possible that this book can get to the value of Hulk 181 or first appearance of Punisher, books like that. But I think that that's still a journey for this particular key. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit concerning, but I don't know. What do you guys think? This $43,000 Ultimate Fallout 4 sale with the Stan Lee Sig is the second highest price that has ever been paid for this book. So it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy to see that. Let me check in with the chat here. It's probably because people don't realize Bendis' importance with the character. It could be that. I do know that there's a subset of people who for sure don't like signatures on books in general, right? Like, and I can understand that. I think that certain SIGs are cool and certain SIGs are not. You know, I mean, with all due respect to Roy Thomas, I think that there's like a lot of Roy Thomas signatures out there. You know what I mean? But I do understand the Stan Lee one. It's pretty special. And for a Stan Lee signature, you know, we always make jokes about how Stan Lee, I don't know if you guys see, like sometimes he'll just sign over like the face of a character, like no regard for, you know, the art with a lot of his signatures. So this one actually is a pretty good placement. In fact, actually, your eye is guided that way because Miles's hand is basically holding the signature. So it's actually really cool. So that's kind of an interesting one. Let's see here. Guy says 43K 98 Stan Lee signature. That is a great priced book. So you think that he got a deal. You think that this is a good deal for this book. Second highest price ever paid for it. Shy by only $200. I mean, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Now they can buy an AF-15. Well, Gordon, this is a good point. This is an important question because, and Horvath, you're kind of there too. I cannot imagine spending 44K on a non-gold or silver key book or whatever. And so this is an important question is, where are we going with Peter versus Miles? You know, where are we going with Peter versus Miles? I've kind of been hinting at it. Again, I don't want to spoil it if you guys in the chat haven't seen the film, but I really do think that they've kind of written themselves in a corner with thematically what they're saying about Miles Morales, who he is as a person and a character and how he relates to Spider-Man versus all the other Spider characters, including, in theory, 616 Peter Parker. And I do worry that they're going to have a hard time landing the plane with it. But it is interesting to think about how, like, never has there been, since this movie has come out, like more people that I swear are like, you know, screw Peter Parker, Miles is the future. And like, yeah, Miles might be the future. But the other thing I think you have to realize is, like, you know, we're all in the comic book collecting space. And I do think that comics, nothing will ever take away the fact that Miles Morales came from this particular comic book right here. But even if the kids like comics, or even if the kids like Miles more than Peter Parker, is that fandom going to translate into comic book form later on, you know, when they get older? Or are all the people who are still buying comic books still just buying whatever, the comic book now? I mean, like, there's so many other collectibles of Miles Morales that you can buy that people spend money on, you know, like maybe people are going to buy the graded video game of, you know, Miles Morales later on, because that's going to have more meaning to them than that of, you know, this Drajevich variant, for instance. So I think it's kind of it's an interesting thing when we're really asking the question, will this book ever outsell AF-15? I mean, just from a supply and demand census standpoint, I don't think that that's possible. I mean, granted, if we're not talking about the Drajevich one, we're talking about cover A, like the regular cover. I don't think that that's possible to ever outsell AF-15, simply due to the fact that the census will just prohibit that from ever being the case. But as far as like status of character and what they represent, and can Miles be the flagship character of Marvel? I mean, that could happen. That might happen. I mean, frankly, after this movie, they might be positioning it to be that way. And later on in the stream, there's another topic I want to talk about, how Marvel is doing, Marvel Comics, that is doing another Ultimates reboot. And that I think is really interesting. And like, what's the significance of the timing behind that? Why are they doing a reboot? Why are they bringing back the Ultimate Universe? If not to always like they do with the Ultimate Universe, is to kind of switch things up and move things around and play with different ideas. Maybe it's because they were setting up, you know, bringing back the Secret Wars and all that stuff. But what if the Ultimate Universe is like, oh, here's Miles Morales again in the Ultimate Universe, and he's like the flagship character of the Ultimate Universe? I mean, that could be, you know, they could be doing that by design, which I think is interesting. I mean, I don't know. Let's see what you guys say here. They're opening the box to what Spider-Man is, and fans, writers have always boxed in what Spider-Man is. That's what makes Miles so great. Right. Yeah. They're opening the box to what Spider-Man is as like, we're all Spider-Man. But I think it's very important, like how they land the plane with the messaging of it, because is it anyone can be Spider-Man, or is there something about being Spider-Man that is core to the character of who that character is and what they represent? Because that was the moral of the first movie. The morality of the first movie is that we're all Spider-Men because we all share this, like, with great power comes great responsibility, duty, self-sacrifice, sort of emotional tenet. And I think with this new film, thematically, again, I can't help but think like, oh man, like they're going to have to undo that in some way based on where the story is pointed. So I think it'll be really interesting. That would not be Marvel anymore. Miles is overrated. I mean, I do think that these movies have written Miles significantly better than the comic books have. So then, the question is like, well, I mean, like, how cool is the character? Like, does the character need to be cool in the comics first? Or does the movie make the character who they are? It's kind of like a chicken and egg thing at this point, which I think is also really interesting. Definitely Miles is overrated. Like my friend said, the only way for him to become popular was to make it a multiverse. I do think that, I mean, obviously Miles, part of his character now is the fact that he is a multiversal Spider-Man. Like that is now core to his character. And he's being built off of the shoulders of Peter Parker Spider-Man. So it's going to be hard. Like the film franchise will land the plane in an interesting way, but then where it goes from here, like how long do you have the, like, I am the multiverse is who I am, like they're clearly trying to set up Spot to be his like arch nemesis. Right. Which I thought was actually really smart, because these superheroes can't get to the next level if they don't have excellent villains that represent the theme of their core character in an opposite sort of way. And now they've kind of made Miles this like multiverse is who he is, and understanding his place in that world. That's like part of his character. And Spot is kind of a good villain to kind of have do that. And I'm sure that in the comic book runs, you're going to see a lot of Spot from here on out. Actually, I would say that what is it? Spectacular Spider-Man 89 or no, 98, first appearance of Spot. I mean, again, relative value or whatever, but I do think that Spot is now a significant Copper Age villain that will be desired for many, many years, and will probably be used in Miles comic book storylines many, many times over, like from here on out. Like I definitely think that will be the case. But interesting stuff with the Miles Morales books, where we're going, all the Spider-Verse keys moving out there in the market. Last little thing to point out, again, this is where I think is really important to think about it when we're thinking about the values and stuff. We look at Ultimate Fallout 4, we ask ourselves, okay, like what's the downside risk of a book like this, right? What's the downside risk of a book? And I think New Mutants 98 is probably the best comparison right now for Ultimate Fallout 4, as far as like tier of character popularity, how many are on the census, age of book, things like that. Now there's actually more New Mutants 98s on the census than that of Ultimate Fallout 4, if we're just talking about cover A. But 98s have 4,000 or 4,100. Ultimate Fallout 4 98s, 3,900, almost the same amount, about, 1,000 less, let's say, 1,100 less. And the current moving average for New Mutants 98 is 1,600. So to me, 1,600 feels like a value range that you could see Ultimate Fallout 4 hitting later on this year once we're past the hype of the movie and stuff like that. So that's something that's interesting to think about. Although, being that it's slightly less on the census. And I think you could make a good argument right now that Miles Morales is more popular than Deadpool. You could make that argument. Maybe that'll be able to keep it just slightly higher value than that of New Mutants 98. But it could be wrong. It could be wrong. Best to always wait for the movie popularity die down first before getting these books. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that for movie popularity, and also just, even outside of the culture aspect, right? Just the times we're in, the economy, things like that. I think it's very, very possible to have a pullback of some kind. But the nice thing about it is that, next summer, in theory, we're going to get another version of the movie. So Miles will have cultural relevance once again. And then it seems, by all accounts, it definitely feels like, okay, we're going to be getting him in live action. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they basically set it up where Miles is going to show up in the Secret Wars Avengers movie, in live action. So at least for the next, 6 years or so, Miles Morales is going to have a lot of cultural significance. So the book is not going to go to zero, right? Facetiously, it's never going to go to zero. But there will be windows when it has pullbacks or falls through the cracks in some kind of way, for sure. Now, the other little thing I mentioned that, Comic Connect was having a bit of an auction. They had a really big premiere auction. Let me see if there's some stuff that we can look at here. Yeah, they just finished up this big auction, and actually a little bit of a promotion. Next week, I believe, I will be having another episode of Swagglecast. I don't know if you guys happen to see my Swagglecast thing. Actually, can I get some feedback? Did you guys like that? I talked to Dinesh from Bad Idea. Just kind of wanted to do like more podcast stuff. I know it's a little bit different than the stuff I do on the channel, but I think it's important to do some of these conversations that can be like a little more like we can hit broader topics. So I'm trying to do some of that content and mix it in every now and again. But Vincent Zerzullo, who, if you guys know him, he runs Comic Connect, this big auction house. And I will be having a podcast with him. I'm going to be talking to him about all types of like super high-end vintage comic stuff. I'm going to ask him a lot of questions about these auctions, the clientele, the people, the market. So it should be a really, really good conversation. But his premiere auction just finished out just today. And there are a couple of sales I thought would be kind of cool for us to look at and kind of break down and see how we feel about them. This is Andrew right here. Great comic book collector, great profile, has some amazing, amazing comics in his collection. I mean, just look at that. So shout out to Andrew. But I'm going over to his Instagram because he happened to take screenshots of where the book's finished just this past week. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about. So 2 big books to talk about here. We have Superman #1, and then we have Batman #1. So those were kind of the 2 premier, say, Golden Age mega keys that went at auction. And the Superman 120 finished at $281,750, 54 bids. The Batman one finished at $176,500. Now, for 2.0s, these were both great looking copies, in my opinion. I mean, like as far as presentation is concerned for a 2.0, I mean, like that's about as good as it gets. I mean, that's a great looking 2.0. That's a great looking 2.0. In fact, and same for this one. Looks like maybe there's like a little bit of funkiness here on the spine, but outside of that, very, very nice presenting books. And I want to kind of see how these books perform. So we said 280,000 for that. We're kind of in this tough economic times. I do think that, while it's a very strong sale and it is the record in grade, you could make the argument that, back in November of 2022, this 1.8, which again, very nice presenting 1.8, sold for 288,000. So 2.0 going for a little less than the 1.8, although the 2.0 prior to that, I think for Superman, if I can find it here, went for 264. So the 2.0 definitely trending upwards compared to the prior sale. And I'd say that that's a pretty strong sale. That's like very, very strong considering the market conditions we're in. you know, considering where we're at, considering that, I don't know like how much you guys follow like the auction stuff, but Superman 1 and Batman 1, I mean, you know, they're not like common books, but they're always on sale. It feels like at least a few times a year or every couple months, Superman 1 goes up for sale, Batman 1 goes up for sale, because these are kind of the expendable books to their counterparts of, you know, Detective Comics 27 and Action Comics #1. So that's kind of an interesting thing, but you know, a good strong showing, I think, for the sales. Obviously, Golden Age books always going to be, you know, able to hold some kind of value because there's so few on the census. There's so many people that want these things, right? You know, what do we say? The census for this, only 143 universal copies. So you only need 144 people with $100,000 that want this book in their collection. So it's really always going to be able to maintain, you know, a very, very strong value. So Batman #1 selling 176,500. And I do think that is also a fairly strong sale for the book. Now we saw 1.8 sell for 144 90 days ago, 2.5 sell for 215. What did we say here? We said 176 for the 2.0. So yeah, I think kind of right in line to, you know, between the 1.8 value and the 2.5 value. So, you know, these books doing really well overall at auction. And being that they're nice looking books, I think that these are really, really good sales. So I don't know. What do you guys think? You know, here we see some Golden Age fans in the chat. Golden Age, baby. Golden Age. Hold the book for a year, then sell for 100K profit. Well, it's funny you say that. Rick, because there's definitely people that do that, you know, and that's the other thing too. I might push Vince on this a little bit when I have my discussion with him and talk to him, because I would like to know how many people who buy these comics, what's the percentage of collectors, right, that buy them? Because I know for fact that a lot of the people who buy some of these books are just other comic book dealers who are like, oh, I can make money on this and I can sit on it and hold it for a little bit. So I would like to know, like, how many pure holder collector people are playing at this level, or is it like 50% of these people are just dealers speculating and selling to other dealers, and we're all just sort of like, you know, trading books at the top level here? Because there's a lot of that. There's definitely a lot of that. And so it is pretty interesting. Yellow Flash, what's going on, man? I'd buy those in any label. Absolutely. I mean, if you get an opportunity to buy these books, you got to go for it. And I realize, I mean, Batman 1, first appearance of Joker. So like, that's incredible. And I realize it's not the first appearance of Batman. It's not the first appearance of Robin. One of the things I always say is, like, the fact that it says Batman 1 and the fact that Superman says Superman 1, like, there's something to that as well. You know, sometimes you get the people that come over to my place and they're like not into comics or whatever. And I have like a Golden Age Superman. And it's like the fact that it says Superman is always so cool. And so that in and of itself, I think what the book represents, not just the first appearance, kind of makes these ones incredible. Definitely incredible. So it's any value you can get for them. And there were actually a couple sales that went for one of those Batman ones. I actually do think there was an incomplete one that went for like, what was it? 60,000, 42,000. Here it is. 42,000. This is really interesting. Talking about little inside dealer stuff. So this book, guys, check this out. Back in November, this book is a 0.5 right here. Sold for 40,000, right? Obviously, you know, amazing to have this book and kind of falling apart, brittle pages, but still amazing to have it. Now, I don't have it pulled up, but somebody cracked and pressed this, or cracked and maybe did some stuff. I'm not sure if this book was incomplete. It doesn't actually say here on the label, and I didn't prepare this, but somebody sent this copy And you could tell that it was this copy because, you know, you could see the corner missing here. You could see the tape stains. You could see all this. And somebody sent this copy to CBCS and they got a 1.0 on CBCS. They got a 1.0. And then it just got posted on Elite Comics Instagram and it got sold. Now, they didn't disclose how much it got sold for, but I do think that they listed it at 100K. So let's say like let's say they took a deal, right? Like 90K, right? DM'd 90K or whatever. But somebody was able to get this in the CBCS level at 90K. And, you know, if they're the person who bought it for 42, I mean, that's a $60,000 profit right there. Like that's pretty darn good, right? That's pretty darn good. So scratches a couple things. Like one, obviously, anytime you can get this book, incredible. But the other part of it too is like, this is why a lot of the dealers buy this stuff. You know, they buy it, they flip it. There's a lot of that stuff going on. A lot of that stuff going on. The book's changing hands and things like that. So definitely very interesting stuff. All right, let me chip back in with the chat here. Thanks so much again for hanging out with me, guys. Gordon says, I think Green Hornet 1, 1940 is underrated. Chris Pine is reportedly to play Green Hornet. They just need Kato. Yeah, I mean, it's 1940 book, Green Hornet. Obviously, again, like all these Golden Age books, going to be super low census. So they're always going to have like tremendous amount of value. I feel like Green Hornet is, I don't know what your age is, like my generation. You know, we had like Green Hornet was before my time. I know Bruce Lee played him, but even Bruce Lee was like slightly before my time. At least when he was playing Kato. And then like we had the, what was it? The Seth Rogen one, you know, which like nobody liked. And then, so like Green Hornet, I feel like hasn't hit sort of the like cultural generation, at least that's like my age and like younger than me and maybe even slightly older than me. Like, so it's kind of interesting, but it could be cool. Like you can make everything cool. You know, if say Chris Pine does it and then he like makes Green Hornet cool, then yeah, there's definitely going to be people looking at that book. And even though Golden Age is like not really an era that you're going to FOMO on, it still has an effect, right? It still has an effect on some of those things for sure. My A15 is restored with color touch and pieces added to cover. I don't care because it didn't cost me an arm and a leg. Yeah. I mean, Flash, dude, like I would love to have an AF15. And you can tell, like, when you look at like AF15 prices, like there's been like lots of corrections in like the high end and stuff, you know, guys like with like mid-range grades and things like that. We've seen pullbacks in prices and stuff with like economy and all that. But the floor value for AF15 is still so strong. Like 1.0s, like maybe they've corrected a little bit from like the highs of 2021, but like you can just tell like everyone just wants it, right? Everyone just wants to get in the club, whether it's qualified, restored, 1.0, you know, corner torn, detached cover, whatever. Like the support floor value is really strong still for AF15. And it's like what you say, it's like you just want the book. Like there's just so many people that just like want to have it and they don't want to give up their copy, which, you know, again, anytime you can have that stuff, it's like incredible. It's always going to be a great book to have. James Oscar says, buy a big book, list it for auction, buy it from yourself, drive up the book's value. You know, James, I mean, I don't have proof, but 1,000% shill bidding happens all the time. Shill bidding for sure happens all the time. And maybe there's like things that are like, oh, okay, you know, it's like, maybe it's not so nefarious. Like there's probably egregious examples of shill bidding. And then there's like, what do we say? Like the white lie version of shill bidding. Meaning if I'm like, James, I'm like, I'm going to list my Superman 1. You know, maybe James, like help me out. Like maybe throw in a couple bits, you know, throw in a couple bits if you could. And so like, there's a lot of that, you know, networking of like your book and like making sure that people are know that it's out there and know that it's happening, know that it's going up for auction and on sale. And then there's like obviously nefarious shill bidding where you have like whatever the 1-star rating eBay shill account that you bid up your book in proxy for, just to make sure that, it gets up there. And then there's other people too, where it's like you could sweep the floor of your own books that you have in your collection. Let's say that you're somebody who's like, I don't know, you like a random Tales from the Crypt book, or you've invested heavily in like some golden age book or whatever. And then every time it comes up for sale, like you corner that market, or like you bid up anytime that book comes up. Like I know a lot of people who do that, right? Where it's like they see that their favorite book is on sale, and then they'll bid it and they'll buy it if it means that they control the market on it. And at the very least, they end up bidding up other people and forcing them to overspend on it, or if not overspend, forcing them to not get like an under market value for it. So the shill bidding definitely happens a lot. And I do wish that I would love to do more videos on that, some like CoffeeZilla investigation scam stuff. But then I feel like I would have no friends in the comic book collecting hobby. I feel like that this is like something that people don't want out there. If aliens are more technologically advanced, then they will colonize us. Well, I feel like if aliens are real and they wanted to colonize us, they probably would have colonized us by now. Or maybe they have colonized us already and we just don't know. All right, let's go over to this little piece of news. They laughed at me. They laughed at me when I said Journey into Mystery 98, first appearance of Cobra, Klaus Voorhees, is a cool B-tier villain book. They said, Swag, this is the lamest character and a wannabe Cobra Commander, even though technically he came out before Cobra Commander. But now, who's laughing? Well, probably the people who are flipping their books on eBay. But this news came out right here. Seth Rollins, who, if you guys know Seth Rollins, the WWE wrestler, there were some photos of him on the Captain America Brave New World set, which they changed the name to Brave New World, which Brave New World sounds so lame. New World Order was actually a cool name. And now Brave New World, I mean, it's like the name of like of the book, Brave New World, but I mean, I don't know what the deal is with why they changed it. Like maybe was it just like New World Order just sounds bad, but it's so funny because like New World Order is like, WCW, New World Order. Like, what's the big deal? Anyways, they changed the name. Seth Rollins is, and in it came out leaked photos that, Serpent Society is going to be a part of the film. And obviously Captain America 310 has had movement in the market and things like that. And we also saw Seth Rollins in there. And now it's coming out. Can we get some toast here? Who's like a credible leaker, or like someone who is like, has that leaker following, says that Seth Rollins will be playing Cobra and has rap for filling. Cobra Klaus Voorhees, of course, Journey into Mystery, number 98 right here. First appearance of Cobra. Now, I love this book because I like Silver Age stuff and I like B-tier villains, and, it brings a smile to my face. If you guys kind of read Captain America during like the Copper Age run, around that time when it was like they did US Agent and all that stuff, like they definitely did a lot of Serpent Society storylines. And then Cobra was, on a bunch of those covers and things like that. But apparently Seth Rollins is going to play this character. Is this a book that's going to take you to the moon? No, probably not. In fact, you know how like these things are with these movies, like it's probably going to be like, the first opening act scene. That's like that action scene. Seth Rollins is in there. And then like Falcon punches him in the face and then he gets thrown in jail. And then that leads the plot to like whatever, the rest of the movie with like Red Hulk and stuff. So it's not like this is going to be a tremendous book that has staying power, but still pretty cool. And, now we're starting to see a little bit of that movement in the market for it. I'm a little bit worried that all the Serpent Society characters in this film will just be like a bunch of jobbers like they were in the She-Hulk show, when they did with the Wrecking Crew. Like you could actually do cool things with these characters, but, we'll see what happens. Of course, you guys know Captain America 310. This is the first appearance of the Serpent Society. This book has been kind of in and out of like, the Spec space. Everyone's been picking it up and things like that. But again, another one that, there's so many copies out there. Like you can find these in the back bins. So if you're out there and you're digging and you're looking, you can always find copies like this. Maybe you can make a little bit, you know, if you're someone who's into like the flipping and selling and that sort of stuff. So something to keep your eye on. And if you're really curious, you can go over here and watch this Prius ad. No, just kidding. This, if you guys ever use the Marvel fandom wiki, this is like the site that, you know, has all the comic book history and things like that. Sometimes I'll go in here, you can look up like a Serpent Society, and then you can go to, you know, expanded here in the member section, and you can see all of the members of the team or current members of the team. And if you really want to do a deep dive and make a play and try to figure out, okay, Constrictor, I think is going to show up next, you can click on him, and then you can go down here and you can see, okay, he made his first appearance in Incredible Hulk 212. And this is kind of how you can sort of find out. If you want to do some Wikipedia-ing, Marvel wikiing, and you want to kind of speculate in that sort of sense. But kind of interesting to see that. I think it's pretty cool. Again, I just am like somebody who's like fond of the Cobra character because of the fact that I remember all those Captain America covers from back in the day. And I, you know, have a fondness for this book. So cool to see Seth Rollins maybe going to play him. But again, like it's like how, who is it? They had GSP playing Batroc the Leaper. You know, I feel like it's going to be that same level of character involvement, right? With something like this. So kind of fun, kind of cool to see. But it'll be interesting to see if we see a lot of sales for this book. Actually, let me refresh this really quick and see what we're seeing. So we have, since this announcement, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 sales for this book. Not a tremendous amount, but I would say that 5 sales is a lot more than you would see on a normal day for a book like that. So kind of interesting. Steve Rogers should be more careful with what type of women he gets involved with. You know, Steve Rogers keeps it in the family. You know, he keeps it in the family with the Carters. Maybe NWO Wrestling has copyrighted it. Could they copyright it? I mean, maybe they could have, but that seems like that would have been like a real oversight, right? Like, I mean, when they decided to roll out that being the name of the movie, like, it seems like it would be pretty easy to figure out if New World Order is copyrighted or not. Squadron Supreme or Hyperion could be in the Thunderbolts. Yeah, they could be. They've been, you know, talking about Squadron Supreme showing up in the Loki show. That feels probably far-fetched to me at this point, based on like what we've kind of seen, you know, with all of it. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. All right, switching gears here to another rambly rant time. We got to go on a little bit of a rant, guys, because this popped up in my Facebook feed for my comic book group, and I thought we were past this stuff. I thought we were over this. This is the type of thing where it's like I would maybe want to make a video about it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to make a video. Like, or it's like maybe it's not big enough of a topic to really like do an actual video for. But occasionally, guys, we have those things where it's like the LCS's pricing at the counter. So I saw this post and I thought it was really funny. I wanted to just share it with you guys. So here you see some LCS, you know, with a bunch of comics here. And then the sign that says, due to the fluctuating prices and volume that we buy, comics are not priced. Please bring to the counter for price. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you. Now, you can't believe everything you see on the internet. Can't believe everything you see, right? That, you know, who knows? Maybe this is like a Photoshop or joke thing, or this is like a 15-year-old photo or whatever. But I mean, like these types of things at comic stores is like literally like I can't help it. Like if I see this, I lose all interest in wanting to shop at that store. It's like, just tell me your price. Like, you know, I don't want to like dig through all your books and like maybe get a good deal and then like do the work for you and like pick out like cool keys and stuff like that. And then you price them based off of eBay. And then like you have to sell that. Like, That's so lame to me. It's like, that's what you guys should be doing. That's the work that I expect of an LCS. And then I think from this, we had this, I think, come out like last year, or maybe it was like a year ago, where there was something like this, and it was in the comic collecting space. It was like viral for a second. Everyone was flaming a similar sign like this, where it just basically said, we can price at the counter. Now, the irony at that point was that was when comic book prices were going up. The funny thing about this post right here is it's like, maybe it's actually a good thing that you price at the counter, because if this means that I get to pay a 2023 price and not a 2021 price, that might actually be better for comic book buyers, but somehow I think that this particular sign is not talking about that. I don't think that this particular, what they're inferring about fluctuating comic prices has anything to do with the fact that prices are going down. I think that they're implying that, hey, maybe in this dollar bin is a $20 key, and we'd like to be able to reprice when that happens. But it's kind of ridiculous. And there's kind of like no excuse. I don't know if there's any like LCS owners in the chat right now. I know that LCS owners watch a lot of my videos and stuff. And like, hey, all due like respect to LCS owners. It's not easy, right? It's definitely a very, very difficult sort of retail business to be in, and very, very high risk, like based on the fact that you have to carry all this inventory. And I realized that, like, you got to penny pinch from time to time and all this stuff. But at the same time, I feel like this is the work, right? Like the work is you buy a collection or you get more inventory, and you go through and you determine what the prices are and you price them out. And then if someone comes in and feels like you price it at a value that they want to buy it, then there you go. Like there's a happy customer. But to just like buy a collection and then like plop the box down and then just say, here you go to town. And then you price at the counter. Like it'd be different if it was like, hey, you know what? $1 bin, you guys go to town. Or hell, $5 bin, $10 bin, whatever it is, plop it down. You guys go to town. If you find, a $50 book in there, congratulations. I'm happy for you. You know what I mean? But like the work is doing the processing, coming up with the prices, and having it be organized. Now, we always have, there's a lot of conversation, like in the comic collecting space and comic world, comic books and things like that, like LCS is constantly going out of business. And a lot of the conversation obviously is related to the fact that, where a lot of that conversation comes from is the idea that's like, okay, comics are just not performing right now. Like the writing is bad, the art is bad, whatever. And I think that there's valid criticisms in that space. But at the same time, too, sometimes I think like, man, a lot of these LCSs go out of business because they themselves are not a good business. Like they themselves, like we all know what it's like. Like everyone in this chat right now has been in an LCS where they go in and it's just like total chaos. Now, sometimes those are the LCSs you want to be in because you can be digging around. And you can like find, like you can be in a situation like this where the person hasn't priced the book and they have like some Silver Age key, just lying in a stack, and they give it to you for like $5 or whatever, right? So like sometimes it can be good, but by and large, like we know what we're talking about here with these LCS. You go in there, there's boxes everywhere. It's completely disorganized. Like nothing is bagged and boarded. There's like just trash everywhere, and it's like, yeah, of course you're going to go out of business. Like how is this an acceptable business of any kind in 2023? You know what I mean? Like what other industry, what other retail space can get away with being that like clustered and unorganized, and archaic with like the systems in place with how you sell, you know what I mean? And so I feel like sometimes I see signs like this and I'm just like, I feel like this is a part of the reason too, why a lot of LCSs are going out of business, not just like the industry itself, but just, dude, like you wonder why people don't want to buy from your LCS and just want to buy online. Cause like, at least online, I can see what the price of the comic is. I don't have to like bring it up to you and then have it priced at the counter. Cause in theory, what you're saying is like, you're just going to price match to whatever it's going for on eBay anyways. And then what's the point of that? Like, why did I even come to your store and spend all this time digging and finding this stuff only for you to price match on eBay when I could have just bought the thing on eBay? So like, that's the whole thing. I think it's just super frustrating. I saw this morning. I just thought it was like, man, I can't believe we still got stores doing this. We still got stores doing this. It's crazy talk. I got to check in with you guys. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about this? I personally don't think anyone should be able to order comics unless they have a retail store. You mean like online stores? There's a comic store near me that just celebrated 31 years of business. Hey, that's great. Props to the comic stores that are, still going strong. I know it's probably not an easy business to be. I mean, no retail business is easy, and comic books on top of that. I mean, that's got to be hard. Let's see. I saw a similar sign in my LCS. Now, there's exceptions to this, of course. Like, maybe you're an LCS that got a new collection in and you haven't had time to process and whatever, like that's fine. It happens. But I just think in general, your back bin should be priced out. This happens. I was recently at one that did this. Yeah, actually, you're right. I'm being like a little bit playful to the, with my tone about this. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stores that do this. It's lazy to force buyer to do all the work. Totally, Rob. That's what I feel like too. Cause it's like, is the idea here that the LCS is fearful that they're going to miss something? Like that I'm going to go in their store and dig through their bins and find a Hulk 181. Like, and you know what? There's levels to this, right? There's degrees and there's levels to this. Because on the flip side of this, let's say you're a store that had a dollar bin, right? And for some reason, it was overlooked and you left a Hulk 181 in your dollar bin. You know what? If you want to do the thing where you say, hey, that was not supposed to be in there, it's annoying, but at the same time, I can understand it. Because, hey, like you can't leave whatever, $2,000, $3,000 on the table, right? Like that happens. But I feel like it's like you're, as a comic book store, if you're doing it right, as a seller, if you're doing it right, you should be buying with equity and then selling with equity. As long as you make your profit, then that's great. If someone goes through digging in your store or digging through your whatever, your bins and stuff, and they get some value or they find value or equity in the books that they find, like that, you should be happy for them. That's great. Like, cool. Like, someone digs in the bins, the dollar bins, and they find a $25 book, or hey, they find a $50 book. Like from time to time, like, cool, just be happy for them. Then they're going to come back to your store and dig again. They're going to come back to your store and spend more money. And by that time, like, as long as you have people who are happy, you have happy customers that are happy to dig through the bins and look through, and they get to win and they get to find some good books from time to time, then like everybody wins, right? Like, was that $50 book that you didn't get that $50 price range on, like, really going to burn you in the end? Because the chances are, if you didn't know that it was in the bin, then it's probably just a collection that you bought. And then you probably bought the entire collection for whatever, 30 cents on the dollar anyways. So it's okay. It's okay. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's LCSs out there that can justify this, and I'd be open to hearing what they have to say about it. Took them 5 minutes to tell me cover price. Oh yeah. Like that's the worst too, right? When it's like you pull out a dollar book or whatever, or like whatever. Yeah, cover price is like a $4 book. I mean, it's a modern book or whatever. And they just have to verify. Like, well, hold on. Like, this book isn't like going to the moon or anything. Let me just verify. And then they see that it sells for whatever. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. In fact, actually, you know what's something that's kind of funny? So now, guys, and this is, look, again, I'm like nobody. This is not like an ego thing. But sometimes now when I go to comic book shows, because like some of the vendors like know that I have the YouTube channel, I talk about like spec and values and things like that. Sometimes now when I buy stuff from certain vendors, they like give me a little side eye, or like sometimes they'll joke with me. They'll be like, "Why are you buying this? Do you know something?" But it's just funny that these like vendors like feel like they just have to know that you're not getting one over on them, for $10 more. It's lazy AF, and I just leave. Yeah, it's really, really annoying. It's really annoying. My LCS has a ton of back issues, and they are all price. I mean, several rooms full of back issues. Yes, it can be done. It can be done, and I know that it's a lot of work, but that's the work. That is the work. That is the work. I call BS on that pricing tactic. LCS needs to make their own price discovery and firmly stand by it, not worry and fluctuate it based on the latest eBay penny pinching. Totally. I totally agree with that. Yeah. If it's hot, then monitor it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like you should, you as an LCS owner, if you know a book is hot, like, hey, what did we just talk about? We just talked about Journey into Mystery 98. Okay, we get this news. Hey, Seth Rollins is going to be playing Cobra. If you see this news and you have an LCS and you know that you have this book, maybe you should go to your store 5 minutes early and reprice it. If you think that you should now charge more for it, like that's what you should do. Like that's part of the work, staying on top of stuff, knowing the price, all that stuff. But at the same time too, as long as you're clearing your margins, then what's the problem? Yeah, maybe it's an old shot. Yeah, that's the other thing. We don't know. We don't know. But again, this was posted just a few hours ago, so kind of a new sign, but just, it's always funny. It's always funny whenever this stuff comes up, because I feel like at least once a year it becomes like a good conversation, a good conversation in the comic collecting hobby. And I don't know anyone who likes this, or I've never heard one good defense of why this should be the way a shop operates. I've never heard of one good reason why this is a good way to run your comic book store. I don't think anybody is happy about this. I don't think anybody wins in this situation. But that's my little end of that rant. Will be interesting to see where it goes from here. And I'm sure 6 months from now, a year from now, there will be another post like this that gets everybody in the comic book hobby riled up. Speaking of riled up, one little other news story here I thought would be interesting to talk about and maybe discuss with you guys and hear what you have to say. This one just kind of caught my comic news sphere. It's a comicbook.com article. Marvel to relaunch Ultimate Universe with Jonathan Hickman and Stefano Caselli. I'll show you guys some of the cover art right here. So you guys remember the Ultimates, right? I think the Ultimates, they came out in like 2009 or 10. That was like essentially the universe that Miles Morales started in before Hickman did the whole Secret Wars event, crashed the two worlds together, and then brought Miles into Earth 616 and the current comic book continuity. And I thought like ever since that event, essentially they basically got rid of the universe. But now Jonathan Hickman is bringing it back. The Ultimate Universe is coming back. Let me read a little bit of the article and let's talk about this and kind of speculate what this sort of means. Marvel Comics is reviving the Ultimate Universe, an experiment at the start of the 21st century by the publisher to reboot their characters with fresh number ones and a new continuity. Marvel always has to do fresh number ones. Look, I feel bad for them. I mean, I think it's kind of eye roll. It's always eye roll town, when they have to do number ones, but like there's always a middle school kid who goes into the LCS for the very first time and they need to know what to grab. So the number ones are kind of an important device as long as they keep the legacy numbers. I think that they should keep the legacy numbers And number ones can just be like hey, here's a starting point. I think that that's a good way to do it. Anyways, the Ultimate Universe is making a comeback after previously being pushed away at the end of 2015 Secret Wars. The publisher confirmed news today, revealing that an upcoming Ultimate Invasion event from writer Jonathan Hickman and artist Brian Hitch will kickstart the Ultimate line of comics once again, something that has been forged in fire and shaped by design. I won't read the whole article, but this is kind of interesting. So in November 2023, later in the year, we're going to get the relaunch of the Ultimate Universe. Now, let me go on a whim here and just say, I'm sure some of the first issues of this run will be pretty good. I'm sure, Jonathan Hickman is a good writer, and I'm sure they will be somewhat enjoyable. But at a certain point, after 10, 11, 13 issues, 15 issues, whatever it is, eventually people will fall off because they'll say, oh, this is a different universe. This is not the 616 universe that has the entire history of all of the back issues of comics that people know and love and collect. And there will be a certain point where, eventually it gets tired and people don't want to do it anymore or read it anymore. This is exactly what happened to the last time that they did the Ultimate Universe. Like, I think this is something where it's like, well, Marvel, they just got to try stuff. They're just, whatever. They have to try stuff. They need to do new things. This is just part of like the cycle, right? Like every few years, they got to do a fresh start, a relaunch, a bunch of number ones, new creative teams, all that stuff. So, I mean, you can't knock them for that. But do we think that the Ultimate Universe is going to be like the prime universe now? No, there's no way. I don't buy this at all. But I do think it's interesting because it does relate back to what we were talking about at the beginning when we were talking about Miles and Peter and all that stuff. I do wonder, like, it'll be telling, like in this key art that we're seeing, obviously Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. This is clearly Black Panther right here, right? We can see the little ear horns. I don't know who this outline is. And then this is clearly Spider-Man. But it'll be interesting to see if this Ultimate Universe, if this is Miles Morales, if this is going to be Miles Spider-Man, and there won't be no Peter Parker in this. And so that'll be interesting. Again, this whole thing of like the flagship character of Marvel switching over to Miles Morales. Again, I don't think that it'll ever really happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's actually what they would want to happen. That's kind of where I think we are. I don't think they could make it happen, though. It seems like it would be impossible. Too many people will miss Peter Parker. Let's see. J-Bond says, Miles will slowly edge out Peter. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know. I think that certainly the success of this movie, this franchise, and things like that, I do think that they will push him for sure. But they have a problem with Miles because even in the films, as cool as they are, like, he's built off of the idea that he is a variant of Spider-Man. Actually, if the filmmakers were smart, they thematically, I think they need to land the next movie in a place where Miles is not a variant of Spider-Man. I think they need to actually figure out a way to make him just his own character so that he can have like his own existence unrelated to the Spider-Verse. Because he'll just always be in the shadow of Peter Parker. And so he will never be able to really, really grow. So I think that that'll be something that they'll need to do. Or they should give him a name that's not Spider-Man. Like, don't call him Spider-Man anymore. Like, I mean, effectively at this point, he's just Miles Morales. Everyone calls him like, or Spider Miles, maybe people say. But I don't even think that they should, like it would be a good, like a smart way for them to end would be like, whatever. We go through the next version of the movie. He defeats Spot and, it's happy ending. And then he like looks out in his window room and he says something like, I'm not Spider-Man anymore. I'm my own person. I'm Miles Morales. Boom. And then we go to the credits, right? So it's like you've officially like birthed this character out of the shadow of Peter Parker Spider-Man, and he's not Spider-Man, and he's his own person. And I actually think that would be a smart thing to do for the character. I really do. So, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It's the OG Ultimate Spider-Man. He was in old promo art from a while ago. He was brought back to life in the books also. Oh, okay. So this is OG Spider-Man then. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see like what the goal is with this Ultimates universe, like why they're even trying to do this. You know, I mean, we're in full Kevin Feige creative ownership town with like where Marvel Publishing is at this point. You know, right? We've he took over all of Marvel Creative. Joe Quesada is no longer in Marvel, right? So it's like I don't even know who like the head editor in chief is right now with Marvel, but I mean I don't know if it's still Cebulski or whatever, but you know we're in full Kevin Feige creative town. So I feel like a lot of these things and designs and stuff is always to kind of be in service to whatever they want to do with the Disney film franchise and stuff, but kind of interesting to see. I would rather them just retire Peter and let him be with MJ and let them have Mayday. I'm sick of them dumping on him. The new books are garbage anyway. Yet I totally agree. Like it's so funny how I don't know. There's such this thing like with I don't know if it's the writers doing this or if it's the editors or whatever conversations are being had in like the creative rooms, but like, you know, and Yellow Flash, you know, you've talked about this a lot, like in a lot of like videos and stuff that you do where it's like, you know, the meme of like subversion, like, oh, that we got to subvert expectations or do subversions of characters and all this stuff. And there's such this push to constantly do the unexpected, like, oh, people want them to be together and we want to design like a hero story and give them a happy ending. No, we can't do that because that's what people expect to happen. The irony being at this point, nobody expects that to happen. You know, it would be so funny to just be like, just do a normal hero story where they just get together at the end. And actually people would just really enjoy it. Like it's like it's like the plague of like, we can't just do like Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, a good guy versus a bad guy, because that's too expected, you know? So we got to like, you know, think of the most unconventional story that nobody would be able to predict that ultimately doesn't end up being satisfying. Or even if you did want it to be satisfying, like let's say like, and this is a problem with comics too. Like, let's say Jonathan Hickman was like, oh, I'm going to do this crazy Ultimates universe thing. It's going to be this grand design. And at the end of it, it's going to be this multiversal battle and Peter Parker and Mary Jane like have to do something together and then they kiss. And it's going to be this super epic thing where they finally end up together. And Mr. Hickman, how many issues do you think that that's going to take? Well, I'm going to do it in 52 issues over the course of 3 years with 17 different tie-ins. And it's like, the problem is like nobody is going to have the patience to stay with that or read that or like be able to follow that storyline. So like this, even if you in theory are trying to create this very satisfying emotional payoff, the problem with comics in this like sequential biweekly format is that doing these payoffs is very difficult. Like it's not a 2-hour movie where everyone can just watch it. And then by the end of 2 hours, it's like, cool, like Peter and Mary Jane are together. So that's the problem I think that they have with a lot of their storytelling. And I think maybe like, even if they're in good faith, trying to just like have them be together, or they're in good faith, they're like, no, it's going to be like a good thing. It looks bad now, but like they're going to come. Like, I just feel like it's so far down the pipeline and not enough people can follow it, you know, the storyline based on the format that they just never get to those innings. So it's just, I don't know. There's such this push to try to like not do fastball down the middle, you know, let's leave everyone with you know, let's make a happy ending here. Let's just, you know, tell a good comic classic story. But people just don't want that. I don't know. I feel like if you do that, people do like it. It's so funny because, you know, there's so many successful like Kickstarter stuff too that's like happening right now, which is classic stories. Good guys, bad guys, whatever. And people really, really enjoy that. The live action Miles flick, which is never will be the turning point. Well, I mean, I think you're right. Clearly, they're going to live action. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Miles Morales is in Secret Wars, you know, Avengers Secret Wars, for sure. I feel like that'll happen. And then probably where Secret Wars ends, you know, if they reset whatever with Marvel and then they like land the plane, and just like Hickman Secret Wars, it'll be like, okay, now Miles is in the MCU continuity. If Sony even wants to do that. I mean, maybe Sony just wants to do their own thing, but it seems like he'll be in it. And yeah, like, you know, a Miles trilogy in live action will for sure be very, very popular. But the question is just like, does that transition to, say, the comic book collector? You know, how many of the young kids, if Miles becomes their favorite character, which I'm willing to accept the idea that Miles would become young kids' favorite characters, does that translate over to, say, like the comic book publishing collecting space? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We seem to be talking only negatives of LCS. What about the positives? Well, Phil, no, there's a lot of great LCSs. I don't mean to be full negative Nancy. I do think that there's a lot of fantastic LCS stuff. I just think sometimes it's funny to talk about those types of posts with LCSs. But I will say, you know, I did that one video series where I was doing like the $5 flips, where I was like going into LCSs and just talking about the store and doing the whole thing. And so that was kind of like my way of doing videos that were like, hey, here, let me just do a little shine on this LCS. I think there's a lot of great LCSs, and I'm actually pretty fortunate. Like where I live in LA, it's like there's a bunch of good ones around me. So much respect to the LCSs. And like I said, it's a super hard business. So the ones that do very well and like have their, you know, business run smoothly, it's such a pleasure, right? And I go back faithfully to the ones that I think do a good job, and I'm happy to spend money there. I don't think that they'll phase out Peter Parker Spidey. I think they're trying to prop up both characters to create multiple cash cows. It doesn't need to be one or the other. Make both super popular. Yeah, I agree with you, Zergi. I agree. They should try and make both popular. I'm talking a little bit like around it because I don't want to do spoilers, but I think that they wrote themselves a little bit in a corner with this current Across the Spider-Verse film, because by the way that they designed the plot, as far as like what the thematic and emotional payoff will be in the next movie, you've kind of created, like, antagonistic is too strong, but you sort of created the relationship of the characters to be at odds with each other. And I think that that's interesting. It's going to be, they got to thread the needle. It's a real narrow window that they're going to have to do to land the plane in the next movie. So I'm very, very curious how they'll do that. But I could see it being like in some time, you know, like as this movie ages and stuff and whatever happens with the next film, I think there will be some really interesting conversations with what the like messaging was at the end of the movie, based on like what they're saying about who is Spider-Man and with the character and all that stuff. So I don't know, but yeah, in an ideal world, both can be great. Both can be great. No, Peter will always be at the center of it, but lately he doesn't seem like willing be. We introduced all the Spider People. Next phase, they will show up as Spider People villains. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not trying to. I don't want to do spoiler stuff, but like, you know, Spider People were kind of villains in the movie, which I thought was an interesting choice. Just retire him and give him and MJ the happy ending they deserve, instead of her being with some loser Marvel editor stand-in like they have going on right now. Just give the people what they want. Just give the people what they want. You know, it's like you got these big claws and you're looking at this rabbit and you're thinking, how do I kill this rabbit with these big claws? You know, it's right there for you. It's right there. Miniseries have been really refreshing for this reason, neatly tied up by the end, able to tell stories they couldn't in the main book because reasons, especially compared to regular ISM. Yeah, I very much enjoy the miniseries too, Chad, because again, you feel like you're getting a complete story. You know, you're getting the arc, and you know that it can be done. It's actually one of the reasons this is like a sidebar conversation. I don't love TV shows. I know, like in this era of entertainment, that's like blasphemous to say that like you don't like TV, but like in my own personal thing, I've never been a big TV fan. I've always much preferred movies, to the reason you're talking about. I feel like, I mean, some TV is good, right? You get the show and then it ends and it's very satisfying, but a lot of TV just keeps it going. You know, that's the problem with TV. And I feel like the miniseries is kind of like movies in that sense. Disagree. Look at Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, Kyle, and of course John Stewart. No one of them is a variant. Miles is his own, and in the movie he is growing into his own Spider-Man. Yeah. No, I agree. It's just one of those, like, I wonder where, because the messaging of the first movie thematically, where it ended, was that we are all Spider-Man because we all share the same core values. Right? That was thematically where it was. And so I understood that and I liked that. And that was cool. This one, now the core values are at odds. So now it begs the question, okay, well, is Spider-Man, or is Miles Spider-Man? Or are they setting it up to be Miles is not Spider-Man, Miles is Miles? And that's, again, I think it'll be interesting to see where they take it. When kids get older, Miles will be their go-to in comics. Yeah, definitely. It's certainly possible. Certainly possible, for sure. Just catching up with chat here. The beauty of TV is the buzz from week to week. Talk about Mandalorian between episodes was great for engagement, even though better, though, is the transition from TV to film to TV, a la Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, that is fun. The water cooler talk, week to week episodes, 100%. That's a great thing about TV. And when TV is really firing on all cylinders, like the Game of Thrones shows and things like that, like, yeah, there's kind of nothing better. And that is good TV. So I retract a little bit of what I said where I didn't like TV, but you know what I mean when I say like a lot of TV shows by design are like, well, we can't end the show. We got to get the next season versus, but if there are shows that are like Breaking Bad, where it was like, oh, okay, it's 6 seasons long. This is it. And we know where it's going to go and end. Those are definitely super satisfying. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. the week before Winter Soldier was released, after was amazing. Everything changed. Yeah, that was really cool. I actually didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, but I since went back and I watched it. And I thought that was so cool how they interwove the story with Winter Soldier. Definitely ahead of its time. But then it feels like at a certain point, they were like, this is too complicated. We're not going to keep up with this. Whatever. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., just do your own thing. You know, just leave us alone. So it felt like that story structure kind of like really fell off, but it was definitely cool that they somehow connected it and tied it together and made it happen. But I also think that wasn't that like an issue, right? With who is the guy who ran the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. side and the Netflix Daredevil and Netflix Punisher and stuff. And like at one point he was with Disney and the MCU, and then there were some like issues, and that was one of the issues. I don't know the story exactly. A good writer will conclude the story and seal it with a masterpiece. Well, the writing for Spider-Verse films is great. It is really, really good. So I have faith. I have faith, but it's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. All right, how are we doing here? Well, those are the main topics that I wanted to hit. I've been going almost 2 hours here. Oh, no, not 2 hours, 90 minutes. I thought I would do 90 minutes, but might start to slowly wrap it up here. Let's see if anyone's got any questions or things like that. Writing is the key. Thank you for your service, Mickey. Well, hey, no problem. Speaking of writing, did you guys know that I wrote a comic book that I just got back from the printers? I don't know if you saw the beginning of the show. Look at that. So cool. Sanity Rise of the Cult. Just got them back from the printers. Got to fulfill the Kickstarter orders. Very, very excited about this. It was really, really cool to get them back from the printers because the quality and all that stuff. You just want to make sure the printing quality was good, but I'm very pleased with the results. And yeah, so I can't wait to fulfill it for everybody. So I'm going to be doing that next week. I might do a video talking a little bit about it if that's something that's kind of interesting. Try to figure out how to make it fun, but show you guys now, just in case I don't do that. But pretty cool stuff here. Pretty cool stuff. So I will be doing that, and then when this is available, I will definitely let you guys know. I will let you know when I'm making it available because I'm very, very excited about it. So hopefully you guys give it a chance and you think that the writing is good because, hey, I've been talking about writing a lot and this, I better put my money where my mouth is. You know what I mean? Better be at least somewhat coherent. I hope it is. Comic Forge, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Pressable Defects in the house. Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by. When do they ship for the Kickstarter bars? Well, Nuktech, I will be starting fulfillment next week. Basically, I just got the orders and, it's a lot of boxes. I got to go through and I got to make sure because there was one that was pretty dinged up for damages. They did do a little bit of a little overrun. Like it's like a standard thing to like print slightly more just to make sure in case the damages are accounted for. So I got to go through and do all that processing, bag and board, everything, look and make sure that I have all of the copies that I need. And then I'm going to report back to them with that whole thing. I have some other materials that are coming with it. So once I have all that accounted for, then I will definitely be doing the process and shipping out to everyone and getting the book in people's hands. So definitely excited about that. Before going with Kickstarter, did you approach a publisher with your comic? Good question, Stephen. I did not. Not officially, because I've talked to some publishers about some ideas, and I'm now going to be writing on a couple comics, which is very, very exciting. I'm very excited about that. But this one I wanted to do myself. I had a story that I wanted to tell. And I just thought that this would be the best way to do it and the avenue to do it and to just do the version of the comic that I wanted to do. So not with this particular story, but maybe other ones I will eventually do. Swag, you should have Torpedo sell them here in Vegas. Well, funny you say that, Karihito, because Torpedo Comics is doing a Comic-Con in LA later on in the month, and I'm hoping I can be there and do a little bit of a thing with them with the comic. I should have everything organized by then, so I'm hoping I can do something like that. And yeah, maybe I'll have that conversation. It'll be interesting. I don't know if they want to do like consignments and things like that, or if they want to have like a Kickstarter comic in their stores. But I would definitely appreciate the support if they're willing to do that. But it would be definitely pretty cool. And I would definitely be at San Diego Comic-Con. And I think we're going to be doing a little bit of a collaboration with some people there and maybe do some stuff and have the book there. And got some other little goodies and things like that. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to get it out there, and I'm excited to get in people's hands, and hopefully people enjoy it. Hopefully people enjoy it, because frankly, I'm still working on the next couple issues, and there's no stopping this train. We're getting across the finish line, for better or for worse. We're doing it. What's the 411 on the writer strike in AI? Palverin says, yeah, writers, this is kind of something interesting. The writer strike, last writer strike, it happened for 100 days. My suspicion was that it was always going to be the same length for that. I do think I have heard some things about the writer strike. If we want to go to Pepe Sylvia town, speculation town, just a quick little, this is what I think is going to happen. I'll give you guys like my, just again, nothing to base this on, just little murmurs that I've picked up. And, to me, I always like, the saying, follow the money, right? Like, what is it? I think that what is really happening, I think eventually the writers, the WGA is going to get everything that they want, right? Like, if we need to raise the wages for, the 8th person in the writing room, like that wage will eventually be met. Like, I don't necessarily think it's as cut and dry as like studios being like, no, we don't want to pay that writer on that random show. I don't really think that that's too big of the issue. I do think that the writers the WGA will get everything that they, are hoping to get. What I do think that the big thing that the studios are doing is that, if you rewind the clock back to like COVID and all that stuff, when streaming was looking like streaming is going to be, this is the end all be all, like, right. Like movie theaters are never coming back and streaming is going to be it. And every single studio was investing in their own streaming service and doing that whole thing. Well, what came with those streaming services was a lot of massive, mega streaming deals, right? Like, you guys know, Dan and Dave, they did Game of Thrones. And I think like after they did Game of Thrones, right? Like they got like a $200 million Netflix development deal, or, there's what's his name? Who did Knives Out? Blanking on the filmmaker. The guy who did Knives Out, got a massive Netflix streaming deal, things like that. So a lot of these studios lock themselves into these massive streaming deals with a lot of different people. And the question, and they kind of, they sort of hit that point where they're like, I don't know Dan and Dave, all due respect to, them and what they make, but they're kind of in that place, right? Where it's like Dan and Dave, like they got this $200 million Netflix deal, coming off of Game of Thrones. And then Netflix is kind of thinking to themselves, like, I mean, are they really worth $200 million? It's like, it's sort of like a sports franchise who like pays a free agent, in the off season, and they like get locked into this massive contract, and they're like, man, I don't know if we should have paid that. Right. So what the studios are doing is they're not agreeing to the WGA terms, but really they're just trying to run the clock out and kneel the ball. Because what ends up happening is, like, if they go long enough, a lot of these contracts get voided. So I think that's really what they're doing. I think it's not so much, I don't want to pay the 8th person in the CSI Miami writing room. I think it is, I don't want to honor these mega streaming deals that we signed ourselves to. And I think that eventually, when those things get voided, that will probably be the time when studios go, okay, WGA, what do you want? Okay, we'll do that. We'll sign that. We'll sign that. We'll sign that. So the WGA will get all of those things. I think that's my speculation as like where it is. And they just have to get some. AI stuff is also obviously an issue. And, eventually we're all going to get taken over by, AI and aliens anyways. Yeah, I'm joking, but the whole, every industry I think is threatened by AI to some degree. So this is just like, we got to stave it off as long as we can until it actually happens. So that's kind of where we're at. Let's see. We got a little flurry here. Ronnie Boy Comics. Hello, Swag. Hello, everyone. What's going on, Ronnie? Good to see you, man. We got Automatic Comics in the house. What's going on, Automatic Comics? We got Como Comic Books in the house. What's going on? Yo, what's up, chat? Good to see you guys. Thanks for stopping by. I heard, yeah, that's definitely on the table. It's definitely a big deal. AI it's sort of inevitable, right? But if you can put some guardrails on it, I think that's probably important. Not just for writers, right? I think probably just everything. AI is going to take over everything eventually. What's going on here? Yeah. AI is the next step of the evolution. It certainly is. Love the weird science selections. Do an episode on AI, please. What is the first AI story? Avengers 55, X-Men 14. Well, isn't like you want to spec on AI? Isn't that like kind of like buying first appearance of Vision, or like what's the first appearance of Jarvis, or first appearance of Ultron? It's kind of like your classic AI stuff, right? All right. Well, I think that's kind of the show, guys. It's kind of the run of the show. I hope you guys are having a great Friday. I think I'm going to fix myself some dinner, fix myself some food. And yeah, I need to play Diablo. I might play Diablo. I might get that. I don't know. Have anyone been playing Diablo? I knew that I wanted to play it. I just haven't had the time to do it yet. So maybe that'll happen in my future soon. But appreciate everybody hanging out with me tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks so much for kicking it. Yeah, Como says, smash that like button. Y'all appreciate it. I guess with that, if there's no other questions, see you guys on the next stream and in the next video. Peace out, y'all.